Oh, oh. Oh, hello, everybody. How are you? This is a school thing. You're supposed to say, I'm fine, Miss Craybill, but that's okay. We won't do that. So, welcome to our Title IX committee meeting today. Um, it's we're hoping that it's going to be kind of short because most of our business has already been taken care of. But I don't know how many of you went ahead and went to Assembly ahead of time to look at our minutes from when we talked, from when we met last time. Um, I'm not going to make us go through that right now, but what I would like to ask is that for our next meeting, that everybody check in on Assembly and just look at the minutes to make sure that we definitely captured what you thought we said in there. I looked them over, and it looks to me like that they look accurate. Thank you, Kim, for doing that for us. So if anybody did read the minutes, prior to now and had any comments, if you want to just, chime in out loud, or if you want to chime in on the chat, then that would be fine. Otherwise, we'll just move on forward, if that's okay. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Lewis to give us some Title IX updates.
Thank you, Ms. Crable. So I just wanted to have a moment to discuss a couple of Title IX updates, not too in depth. One is an update at the federal level regarding the Biden administration's Title IX updates. So, through the executive order, the Department of Education announced that they will take steps to review Department of Education regulations and guidelines to coincide with President Biden's stance on these particular matters. So there has been an update, and the Department of Education has announced that they are scheduling public hearings on the regulations on June 7th through the 11th of this year. So that will be an opportunity for the members of the public to be able to provide comment to Department of Education regarding what Title IX regulations should look like regarding sexual harassment. So that's an update at the federal level, begins a process for updating the regulations from the Trump administration.
Jarrell, could you tell us how to, if we were so inclined, to speak at one of these public hearings or listen in, how we would do that?
Yeah, so there is a sign up sheet or a form that just launched today on the Department of Education's website. If anyone wants access to the link, I could definitely send that out, or you can go find it on the Department of Education's website. But it'd probably be most easiest for me to send it out to.
I would think most easiest would would be
Right.
very helpful if you have the time. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so I can definitely do that. And so moving forward with updates. So recently, the Department of Public Instruction for North Carolina updated Power Schools to allow for the preferred name option. It does not include preferred pronouns, though. Nonetheless, we are at the beginning stages of planning the rollout for that um, application in our district. We'll be having upcoming meetings in the near future within the district to plan for the rollout, to be able to announce and have our students utilize those preferred name options now that Power Schools has recently been updated. The last update that I have for Title IX is regarding um, Senate Bill, or maybe it was House Bill. Sorry, I can't remember. 358. That was the bill that spoke about um, transgender sports accommodations. I think our last meeting we shared that there was a bill that was working its way through in the House, actually. So it's House Bill 358. The update is that that bill is no longer moving forward, and so that's the update. The bill is no longer moving forward. So that's all for my Title IX updates. If there are any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure I send out the information for the sign up at the hearing.
Okay, so I did have an update to add into there before we move into membership. the so just in case everybody is, sitting on pins and needles, we are going to be giving, or I'm going to be giving a presentation with Jarrell to the fellow Board of Education members tomorrow at our interim meeting to introduce the survey. They will have already seen the survey because it's posted in Assembly for them to look at. We probably won't go over both. We'll probably just go over, one because they are exactly the same. And I'll probably just pick high school, I think, just and so they've seen it and hopefully, have made comments, well, I haven't seen any comments from them, so hopefully they'll make those ahead of time to either Mrs. Walker or I. So hi, Stephanie, I see your name on there, but I don't see your face. So yeah, so that's coming on this Tuesday, and we will hopefully get the survey passed, and we won't be able to decide if it's opt-in versus opt-out, even though we have recommended it be an opt-out, because the survey policy, and I think it's 4620, I'm not certain of the number off the top of my head, but we need to get that approved in June. So that's kind of where we are in that process. And just as a reminder, we are going to, in the presentation, I'm going to ask that we be able to, if we approve the survey, to issue the survey at the start of the school year. So we will get our survey on the list of the surveys that are going to go out if we get approved. So anything else, Jarrell, about that whole process? I think or Stephanie, is there anything else you can think of about the process? I just didn't want anybody to think that we were not moving forward with that. And also, too, I did make our recommendation at the last board meeting to the policy committee that we supported as a committee the transgender middle school students being able to play on the team with the gender with which they identify. So that hasn't, it's in our policy, but again, that won't come before the whole board until the June meeting as well. So I think that's just kind of a rough recap on where we've been, what we've been doing, for the past couple months, that it is finally, coming to fruition to make it out to the whole board.
So thank you, Ms. Crable. So moving forward, next point on our
Could I ask
agenda.
a first?
Yes.
Sure.
There's an issue that I wanted to ask about, and I don't know if you're going to give us time at the end of the meeting or do it now.
I would say hang on, let us, we'll go through the agenda, and then we will, before we end, we'll say, is there anybody else that has anything to add? And then put your hand back up, okay? All right.
Okay, so we'll continue moving forward with the agenda. Next, thinking about membership. So give me one moment as I share my screen.
So now I see you, Stephanie Walker.
Been on the whole time.
My screen was shared, and you were shared, all of you were shared off of it.
Okay, so it looks like everyone can see my screen here. And so, of course, we were speaking about having a process for accepting and adding new members to the Title IX committee. And so we have borrowed from the EDI committee to come up with a membership form application. And we just wanted to show it to you all today to get a couple of thoughts about some of the questions that we're asking for new potential members. So I'll just briefly go through it with you all, not too in depth, just a couple of basic information, such as email, date of the application, phone number, name, and then here are the substantive questions for members that are looking to be part of the committee. Please explain your interest in serving on this committee. The next question is, I'm not sure why they're on here twice, but that's what it looks to be. Um, please share who you are representing and the organized agencies for which you are affiliated. So that's asking a little bit about the background information for the individuals that are seeking to participate. Describe any experience or training related to cultural competency, equity, or diversity initiatives, educational, instructional, or policy, or other related fields, or your interest in this area. So we're trying to get a little bit of background about the potential new members before they are placed on the committee through the application process. Also seeking to know, are you employed by or related to an employee of New Hanover County Schools? And if so, we want you to speak a little bit about that. Also, we want to know about the expectations of what the new members have for the committee and outcomes as well. And then we think it's important to know the list of skills and traits or characters and qualities that a new member could bring to help facilitate our work as a committee. And then we're also speaking about how long a person was willing to serve to determine how long they're interested, whether it's 1 to 4 years. And then also, please share any additional information that you would like for us to consider as a part of this process. And then also seeking to have references for an application and the references contact information. So this is the first draft of the Title IX new member application. Are there any comments or notes? I actually think they're on there. Some questions are on there twice because I just forgot to delete duplicate. So that's my fault. Are there any comments or questions about the membership application at this point?
Terrell, there was one question that you had about if you had any experience in equity and diversity and other, topics.
Mm-hmm.
Can we add in there Title IX
Yes.
experience? Yeah, that would be kind of helpful if somebody has had that in a former life or a current life.
Do you want to delete any other language on there and just add Title IX, or do we want to keep those other?
No, I don't mind. I mean, I'm open to what everybody else is thinking too, but I don't mind, just kind of seeing what kind of experience folks have in like educational instruction and policy, because I'm thinking, that could be another nonprofit or a substitute teacher, perhaps, a school volunteer, who's been in the school that might have seen some of these kind of things. And that's kind of how I got started in all this kind of stuff, just by volunteering and substituting. You kind of see what's going on, and you're always wondering what your role is, in correcting or reporting, or maybe not correcting is not the right word, talking to a student about, a better behavior choice. But I'm open to what the group has to say.
Any other thoughts or comments about this particular question?
I have a question. This is for the overall committee, right? We haven't really decided. I know we've decided on our subcommittees. Do you think it would be helpful to have a line? Which subcommittee would you prefer, or put them in ranking order or anything like that? Or is that something for another conversation?
I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea as well.
So along those lines, I know that we are we want to pursue having a student component, a student subcommittee. So would we want them to use the same sort of application, or we want to have our faculty advisor, if you will, facilitator, help develop what that survey might look like for students?
My understanding is that we weren't actually going to add a student subcommittee, but we were just going to utilize student focus groups to elevate their voice to a district level.
Okay.
But if we want to have student, a student subcommittee, I'm okay with that as well. But my understanding was that we would have a student focus group instead of adding them as a subcommittee.
I would just add that we should probably discuss that later. I like the idea of the focus groups, but I do also like the idea of actually having students on our committee. Maybe, you know, I think each one of these committees probably would benefit from having a student voice. But I guess since we don't know what it looks like right now, maybe we should just concentrate on this and then maybe further discuss, like Ms. Crapel said, like a facilitator for a student to be involved. I know we briefly spoke about the education component of it. Having the input from students would be very, very important as far as getting students educated on Title IX issues. But right now, I guess I'm hoping we move towards student voices on committees, but focus group is fine too. I think anything to do with students being included is a bonus. So I would love to have that on maybe agenda for another meeting, if that's okay with Ms. Crable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments or thoughts on that? Especially those of you who work in the education system, about how we utilize students. I just want to, if we're bringing in a student, well, I want to hear the student voice, but if we're bringing our students in, then I want to make sure that we give them a meaningful opportunity so they can provide, feel safe in providing comments to us. And we actually have some thoughts and questions, to ask them, and that we are able to be good role models for them as committee members, to have them, join us in whatever capacity that is. But maybe we do kind of just put that as a future agenda item where we can all kind of mull that over and think. And you might even know of students in the and I guess, like we need to see like what age do we want, like middle school, high school age, mull over, how we go about getting a representative student voice, on this committee. Jarrell and I have both already reached out to some high school teacher facilitators who might help us, get that. So people can be thinking. So if anybody's got any thoughts, go ahead and jump right in.
I definitely know that students are interested. I'm sure they would like to be involved at the subcommittee level. In my work, going visiting schools, I've definitely met a handful of students and have taken their names for persons that I think would be great for voices at the committee here. I would say that they are definitely energized, have great ideas, and are willing and ready to push us to higher heights for sure. So I'm excited about the prospect of adding students.
So now that we're thinking about this out loud, what do you guys think about having one question at the end of a survey that we're getting ready to propose that says, would you be interested in participating further in a focus group, or something, maybe not something that's real committed. I mean, not long-term commitment, but what do we think about that? What? Yeah, would you be interested in being contacted? I mean, what's anybody think about that? I mean, even though we've already approved the survey, but we could probably add that one last question in, or I can just bring it up tomorrow. What does anybody think about that? Like, not to say that just because you put your name down, we're going to call you, but or that you're going to be on the team, but we certainly have a good pool to pick from.
Well, we want to keep the survey anonymous, so maybe they should be separate.
Oh, duh. You're right.
So, yeah, and I was thinking that some kind of a hybrid between the focus groups and having students on this actual committee. There would be students who'd be interested in participating in focus groups, but not necessarily wanting to commit to a meeting. So it might be that there's a student chair or a student steering committee that has direct contact with this committee, but then they have more direct contact with students. So it's sort of a parallel sort of thing. So there's a student version. I haven't thought it through real carefully, but just suggesting think about some hybrid. So
Yeah.
ongoing activity for a lot of students, but only a few students are actually, or one or two students are officially on this committee, but they're sort of the voice for what they're picking up from their student
Well,
group.
we would also too need to change our time because high school and middle school students are still in school at 3 o'clock. Um, so we would have to take a look at that, but that's an easy thing to do if we're going to include them. Yeah, so everybody just kind of think about what that's going to look like for us, and then we can maybe spend a meeting, kind of talking about that and seeing what it looks like. Stephanie, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Well, only that I know EDI is looking at adding student voices, and we don't quite know what that looks like yet. We are still kind of seeing how it fits. We were hoping we would somehow bring students in as part of the EDI committee, and I wouldn't say an official capacity, not voting or anything, but maybe shadowing board members or just being part of the political process of being being near the school board and knowing how the processes work. So we might learn something from that process as far as bringing student voices in. But I know Jarrell said that he knows there's interest out there, so hopefully he's got his ear to the ground and he knows maybe of some students that would be interested, because I know I have a student that was, she's very, very much, I call her my overachiever, but she was a very good student. She wanted to be involved, and some students, they want to be involved at different levels, and some just really want to be a voice. So I don't know what it looks like, but we do want to include members of this community or the Title IX committee that really want to be a representative if they're comfortable.
Right.
If they're not, we just have to see what that looks like. But gosh, it could be a hybrid of things. But that's definitely something for an agenda item we could definitely discuss and get feedback from maybe Jarrell and anyone else that wants to give feedback.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say Amy Oots had chimed in, she in the chat, that maybe, one thing to be thinking about is we could invite our students to specific meetings based on the topics, to, get feedback. And then Joelle, thank you, said it was definitely important to get perspective of students since we are actually here for them. And sometimes all that gets lost in the shuffle if we are not directly in the schools on a regular basis. So yeah, both good comments.
Can I ask a question? Are the subcommittee meetings, there's our overall Title IX meeting, and I know we've met for the survey, but the subcommittee meetings, do they all have to be recorded? I mean, streamed and recorded, or are they more informal? That might make a difference in, the student participation.
Well, yeah, I would think if they're recorded, we'd probably have to get permission.
Well, and plus that might
need parent permission regardless to be part of the subcommittee or focus group. There are still questions about, the formal organization of the subcommittees, but I think we're going towards a more formal process for the committee as a whole, which would probably mean the same thing for the subcommittees.
Well, and also too, just from some historical perspective, prior to COVID, we would meet here at the Board of Education Center, and the whole meeting was recorded. But when we often broke out into subcommittees around the room, and they weren't all recorded. What was recorded was if they came back and did a report for that. So I'll have to, we'll have to probably check with, how that works, but I wouldn't think we'd have to record every subcommittee, especially if we get to meet here in the fall, back on, together as a group instead of on Zoom. I mean, so we have a lot of learning to do over the summer on what we're going to what things are going to look like in the fall. So, Julie Barnum, one more project to add, which she will be, I'm sure, informing us on. So yeah, these are all good thoughts. So keep all those, and I'm making a note, and Kim is over there, typing away on our minutes. This is another good reason for us to kind of keep track of our minutes. If nothing else, I call it a collective memory if we don't want to call them minutes. Just so we know where we've been and kind of have an idea on where we want to go.
That's it for the point about membership discussion. So we continue moving on.
Yeah. So I guess before we get to the closing, is there anything that anybody else want to bring up into the open forum that we can either, chat about, right now, or that we could add to our future agendas?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yes, Jackie has something.
Okay. So I think this would be in the purview of this committee, but I'm not sure. And it's taking on this issue of whether or not critical race theory is going to be taught in the schools. And, I've been reading about it, and there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions. People really don't know what critical race theory is. And if it were to be taught, making sure that it was age appropriate and teachers were trained. And it just seems to me that Title IX committee would be particularly interested in that issue, but I could be wrong. But I just wanted to get it on our radar.
So thank you for sharing that. Ms. Walker is the chair of the EDI committee, and that is where that work has been taking place. So Ms. Walker, you could definitely give a pitch right now about the EDI meetings and how we can find
Yes.
that information.
Well, I think we have to move some meetings around this coming up in June because it's conflicting with county commission budget meetings. I mean, we're going to reschedule it for June 8th, which is the day after what it's supposed to be. But then we might have a board meeting that night because we were going to discuss it tomorrow night too. So I would say it's typically the first Monday of every month is the EDI meeting, and definitely tune in for that. I don't think this discussion on critical race theory has to do with Title IX as much as it does the EDI discussion. But, I listened to a forum yesterday, I believe, isn't that Ms. Crable?
Yeah.
That Dr. Faust was on, and critical race theory is not being taught in our schools as a lesson. And I don't know, there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding that. It's in my opinion, is a political discussion that doesn't really enter into what we're discussing on EDI when it comes to equity discussion. So I know it's not a pitch, but it's not on our agenda to discuss it. It's not something that we focus on EDI committee. We look at lots of things, and if anybody wants to tune in, they're welcome to look at the discussions or look at past board meetings and agendas where we have the 6 main goals that we focus on. And equity is a discussion not just about race, which is very, very important, but it's it's an umbrella discussion where we try and include some Title IX stuff, which we don't call it Title IX. It's just discussion on gender issues, but also EC kids and representation there. So anybody's welcome to get in touch with me if they have any questions about what we do on EDI, or look at all the past meetings and tune into future ones. And we'd be happy to take any questions as far as that concerned. But critical race theory has nothing to do with Title IX as far as I'm aware, unless somebody knows something I don't know.
Well, and I would tend to agree with you, Stephanie. And Dr. Faust did say it, at a forum this past weekend, and probably more strongly than he has ever said before. And he said it in many meetings, is that we are not teaching critical race theory in our school system right now. And I would encourage anybody that has questions about that, if they don't believe us, contact someone at DPI, and we get our curriculum materials from the Department of Instruction, and we don't vary off of that because we are held accountable to teaching every standard, that we have to teach. And that's not to say that we might not have a rogue teacher from time to time, but if that occurs, then, a parent or a student just needs to talk to their principal. And then if that doesn't, get them where they need, they can call, Jackie Jethro or Al Bryant, who are our director of elementary and middle school, secondary education. And they're both, and Dr. Faust too. I mean, everybody is willing to talk with you about that, but it's going to be a constant, vigilant eye on the prize that we are not teaching critical race theory. So we just have to spread that word as best that we can. So I would, thank you for, throwing it out there, Jackie, for us to at least mull over. But that's kind of where, I am. And then you heard where Ms. Walker is. So, and Jarrell, sort of said the same thing. So
Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
Just to make a point, when we have equity discussions, that doesn't mean they're critical race theory discussions.
Right.
Equity affects us all, and I think just because we discuss ways to make help our students be better, doesn't mean that we're teaching critical race theory. Equity is a definitely a intention, purposeful discussion just to make it better for students in our district. So, I know a lot of people conflate the two and say that they're the same, but they're not. So I just wanted to add that in there because I know that that's often a confusing thing as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Jackie. Anybody else have anything for the good of the team? Type her in the chat or speak up. We're going to get out really early. This is awesome. So before we close, I would just like to, there are a lot of board committees that don't meet over the summer. I would like to suggest that we do meet in June because it will be after the board meeting where we approve some policies. And so I would like the opportunity for us to at least talk about the outcome of that meeting with the adoption or non-adoption of policies. Take off in July, everybody needs a respite, and then reconvene back in August so that we can hear about maybe any new programming that is going to be introduced or current programming that is going to be continued. And then, if our survey is approved, when that might go out, because if it gets approved, then I'm going to have to work with our school system people to figure out, when is best, how is best, all those little details that this committee really wouldn't be, involved in. So how does that sound?
If you don't mind, I'm okay with that. I mean, that's totally fine. I hope next meeting, maybe we can, and I don't know if this will happen in time for the new school year, but I guess we need to be specifically on that timeline if we are not ready. But like our subcommittees, I know we have to get membership in. I know we have to decide how many people we really want on our subcommittees and what that makeup looks like, and have the student discussion. So I guess if we're skipping July, maybe for June we can fill all those discussions out, and then when we come back in August, we'll be ready to hit the ground running. And if not, if we need another month, I mean, that's okay too. But I like the fact that we are reorganizing and kind of restructuring, and that makes our work more purposeful. And I'm excited to see what we can do coming up. So I just wanted to add that in. I guess it's for my own kind of housekeeping in my mind. If we take a month off, what it's going to look like in August. But you'll be able to tell us that, you and Jarrell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then also to our meeting in June is probably even going to be like, some of our teachers are going to be out of school, right, by the time that happens. So I'm not even certain June is a good meeting for the third week in June. But we'll just, to have like an in-depth discussion like you're suggesting, Stephanie, because we might miss a lot of voices if we do that. There's a fair number of people on our team that are school system employees that are not, they're 10 and a half months employees. There may not be 12. And then people do vacations and stuff. So yes, our June might even be questionable. I guess we can give an update. I mean, on that.
Yeah, I guess if you, want to find out whether there are going to be members that will be available, and then if not, then you can let us know whether June or July is good or not good.
Yeah, maybe Jarrell we can work on like a quick little Google survey, email survey to folks, and we can just get an idea. Because I would hate to have a good, meaningful discussion without a majority of our team.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. All right, Julie, did you have anything that you wanted to add for the group? Okay. All righty. Well, Stephanie, did you want to close us out, or you've been adding the closers in like the whole time, but that's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've already spoken enough. I think I don't think there's anything else to close except for just thanking everyone for continuing support of Title IX and the students of the district. I mean, I can't say that enough. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, tune in tomorrow, just to watch, and nobody has to be nervous. Nobody has to come and storm the room and have a million speakers. I don't think, because I think our board knows it's coming and is ready to hear the presentation. But certainly come if you want, and be there in spirit, in body or spirit, to support the discussion. If you come, that you can't talk and you can't add to the discussion, but you could always do a call to the audience, if you feel so inclined. So other than that, then we'll be back in touch soon. And thank you again for all your hard work.
But I think the 100 is the capacity. Someone just asked in the chat. I think Amy.
Oh.
I think 50 was 50.
Well, I don't
think it's 100.
No, it's definitely not 100. It's like it's 50 because we still have to do social distancing.
Right. That's right. Sorry, I was
Julie,
thinking about like. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's let Julie just before we jump out. We're going to let our resident expert.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had to connect from two different devices for some reason today. So there's some discrepancy in the direction from the governor's orders from Friday, and then the release of the Strong Schools Toolkit from Friday. So one came from the governor's office, of course, and the other came from the Department of Health and Human Services. One says there are no social distancing measures for any setting. And some settings will continue to wear masks, and that includes schools. However, the Strong Schools Toolkit still says that we are maintaining the distancing and wearing the masks. So I've been in touch with our attorney today and with health department. So hopefully we're going to have answers by this evening or tomorrow. And if not, we're still working toward that. We're just trying to make sure we understand what the requirements are. So I'm not really sure what the capacity is at the moment.
Okay. Well, we'll go with 50 because that's what we know to be true. And if more can come, then yay.
Yeah, I would say 50 and masks still.
Yeah, keep your mask on, because this is still, I guess, a school setting, right?
Yes, we operate as a school setting, so we are still utilizing masks indoors.
Thus, the reason that Jarrell and Julie and I have masks on, and we're not even near each other, but we're in the same building room. So, all right, well, you all enjoy this evening. Go out and get a walk in. The weather is awesome. And pretty soon it's going to be too hot to walk at this time of the day. So get it in while we can. So thank you all so much. Appreciate your time and your energy.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.